Let's learn how to make this multiplayer game. In visual scripting, start with new project. Using netcode, that's supported from Unity. Easily step by step. Move player from host. And how to sync to clients. How to get ping. Move player from client device. How to communicate between server and client. How to use network variable to remove lag and delay. How to create new network object on server and spawn it on all client devices. After tutorial, you know how to build any multiplayer games by yourself easily in visual scripting. If this is your first time to make multiplayer game, let's watch this video first. To understand what is server, host or client, I will leave its link under video. For you practice to connect server with client, and how network objects work. Create new project with Unity 2021 or newer versions. Rotate camera to 90 degrees to make it top view. Let's prepare all objects that need for our multiplayer game. Create a 3D cube, name it blue zone. If our ball touched this zone, game is ended. Duplicate it, rename to red zone for enemy side. Create another 3D cube, name it player, we will make this a prefab player later. Create a sphere to make it as a ball. Move it to center. Name it ball. Make it smaller. Next, create some buttons. With size 200 by 100 pixel, name it button start host. Set its text to start host. I will move it to the right side. Duplicate to make another button for button start client. And a text to show any message on the screen. Like name of host or client. Or who is the winner, red or blue. We have enough all objects for our game now. Open Package Manager. Make sure you have the newest version of Visual Scripting. Next, install Visual Scripting Plus. You can get it with link under video. Select all to import to your project. Or you can select just Macro Netcode package. We use only this one in the tutorial. You can import directly like this. This is folder, Macro Netcode package, after you import it. We have some requirements to install netcode plugins here. You must install netcode, relay and lobby to make it work. Open Package Manager again. Add package by name, paste its name here. Type the version to install. After install, you will have plugin netcode, relay and lobby, they all free. Next step is unzip our netcode package and use as other macro. After unzip, you have folder with name Macro Netcode here. Open folder Macro Netcode. Open script, use netcode. We have instruction, how to use it step by step here. First, add prefab Macro Netcode into hierarchy. Next step, select Network Manager on prefab Macro Netcode. To add prefab of player, there is a notice here for any network object. We have to add script network object and network variable into it. Select our player, add script network object. We must add script network variable too. Remember, these two scripts always be added together. Create new folder, name prefab or any names you like. Drop object player in this folder. We got prefab player. You can delete the old one. On Network Manager, let's add player prefab into. By the way, let's create prefab of object ball as well. We will use it later. Add script, network object and network variable into it. Then drop it into a folder to create its prefab. Next step, we need to choose which Unity transport to connect devices. Choose Unity transport, use your own router to connect players. Relay transport, use Unity server to connect devices. We will learn it later. Next step, we can call start host or start client to connect devices now. Create an empty object. Name it player controller. Add new visual scripting script. Name it player controller or any names you like. Let's create some button click event. On pointer down to get button click down. Input this is button that is clicked on. Enter name of button start host into. If this button is clicked on, show a message to debug log to test it. Copy all to create click event for button start client. Press play to test it. Our button events worked well. Next, open Use Netcode to get event to use. To start host or start client, we have events here. Open our script, paste it here. If button start host is clicked, let's start host. And button start client to start client. Now I will export it to an app in window platform to test it. It usually takes about 18 seconds only to export to PC. Now run it on editor. Press button start host. Player 1 is created. Next, open our game on another build and start it as client. Player 2 of client to device is created. Two devices are connected successfully. Open Use Netcode to get event to use. Whenever a player object is spawned, this event will be triggered. It will trigger on server and all client devices whenever a player is spawned. I have example here. When one player is spawned, this event will trigger one time on server and one time on client 1. If there are two players are connected, this event will trigger 2 times on server, 2 times on client 1, and trigger 2 times on client 2. Copy that event and open our script. Paste it here. Open Use Netcode again. This time we need to find out player object just spawned is player of host or player of a client. Is host will tell you know what device are playing on, host or client. Always remember, host is server, and be client 1. Let's create variable, prefab player host, when player of client 1 is spawned. And prefab player enemy, when player of client 2 is spawned. We have event is owner, to see if player 2 is spawned, on client 2 device. You will use this event a lot. Let's add player object that just spawned into. Is host is true, so we are on host device or client 1 device now. If current device is owner of this player object, player just spawned is player of host because we are on host device. So we got player of host or player 1 here. Other hand, if current player is not belong to host, so it is player 2. Because in this game, we have only 2 players. On host side, we can know when player 1 or player 2 are spawned now. Next, let's find out when player 1 or player 2 are spawned on client 2 device. If player 2 is spawned on client 2 device, is owner will be true. Add player 2, 2 variable prefab player enemy. And another player will be player 1, or player of host. Create a 3D cube. Name it host location. Delete it collider, we don't need it. Make it size smaller. Then move it to blue area. This will be player start position of host or client 1. Do the same to create enemy location for player 2. Open player controller script. Create a trigger custom event after player is spawned. If player of host is spawned, move to host location. If player of enemy is spawned, move to enemy location. Now let's handle these custom events. We're doing these events on host device only, because client device cannot move any network objects. To move object on host or server, do the same in any normal games. After player of host is spawned, move it to host location position. Do the same to move player enemy to enemy location position. Let's build the game to test it. On editor, press start host. Player 1 is spawned and moved to host location as expected. Started as client. Player 2 is spawned and moved to enemy location. 2 players are synchronized correctly on both host device and client device. I will group these objects to look it easier. To move player, I need to use macro character. I will import it from Visual Scripting Plus again. You can import all of folders, but I usually import only things I need in my project. Now open macro character. Open script use character to get event to use. This macro, you just need to copy and can use it right away anywhere. To move a 3D player, I will use this one. Copy it. Open script player controller. Move to bottom. Paste it here. Create some buttons event. I will use keyboard buttons, get key. Button D to move player to right side. Copy event is host again. We will use this to consider which device is clicking buttons. Is it client 1 or client 2 pressing the buttons? If it is a host, so client 1 is pressing the buttons to move player 1. Add another button A to move player to left side. I will create more buttons, detect if client 2 is pressing. If not a host, it is client 2 is pressing button. Now let's handle to move player 1 from host or client 1. If button D is pressed, direction vector will be 1, 0, 0, move to right. You can enter move speed directly here, or create a variable to control it easier. I will move it with speed equals 2. If button A is pressed, player host will move to left side. Direction vector will be -1, 0, 0. Let's create another variable to control the direction vector. I will call it move vector. With a vector 3 value, when button D is pressed, vector will be 1, 0, 0, move to right. And when button A is pressed, vector will be -1, 0, 0, move to left side. Add move vector to direction to move player. We finished event to move player 1 on host device or client 1. Press play to test it out. There is an error here because we didn't add rigid body to prefab player yet. Open our prefab player again. I will add it into hierarchy to get it anytime we want, and we must disable it from the game here. Let's open the prefab player. Then add component rigid body to be able to move it. Drag value to stop movement when no buttons are pressed. We don't use gravity in this game. And freeze all its rotation to stop its spinning. Now save it, and press play to try again. Player host can move perfect. Let's build to test it on client view. After build is finished, start game in editor as host. Then open game on client. Position of player 1 and player 2 are correct. But when you move player on host side, player 1 on client device is not moved at all. To sync player movement of host on client devices, we need to add network transform on prefab player. When any network object on host device has this component, host will synchronize position of this object on all client devices. Always remember, clients cannot move any network objects. All network objects need to move on host or server device only. Build to try it again. Start host on editor. And start client. Now player 1 is moved on host device. Player 1 on client 2 device is moved too. I will add some trigger custom event to make it easier to look. Host input and enemy input. We finished how to move player on host device already. As I mentioned, client 2 cannot use this event to move any network objects. So how to move player 2 on client 2 device? When client 2 press buttons, we don't move player. Instead that, we send a move vector to host, and host will move player 2 on host device. We can use network variable to send message from client 2 to host. First, you must create network variable on player 2 from client 2 device. Network variable can be created on owner player only. After a network variable is created, you can update its value with this. Client 2 device can only update value of network variable on player 2. After updated value, player 2 on host device will be updated. Let's copy all of these events. Open our script. Paste it here. First, we must create network variable when player 2 is spawned. Go to event on player object spawn. On client 2 device, after player 2 is created, create network variable. we will create network variable right on object player 2 with name enemy move vector. There are many types of value you can select here. Select vector 3. Go back to client 2 input or enemy input. When buttons are pressed, we will update network variable here. Input player object will be player 2 object or player enemy. Name network variable is enemy move vector. I will copy the move vector from above event. When client press button D, move vector will be 100, and press button A, move vector will be -100. Add value of move vector to our network variable. After host received move vector from client 2, it will move player 2 on host. Create trigger custom event to update enemy position on host device. I will put it at bottom. We will use this event to get network variable value. Remember that we are working on host device now. Only host device can move player objects. We have variable enemy move vector from player 2. I will edit value back to a flow variable with name move vector. To move a player object, we can copy this event again. Object to move is player 2 or player enemy. Direction of movement is move vector. Player 2 can be moved from client 2 device now. When I press play to test how network variable works, there is some error. Let's open our script to see what is happening. On event update enemy position, it cannot find object player enemy existed. Because we're using on update to check buttons right after host is started. So this event is called before client 2 joined and player enemy is created. To fix this error, just make sure player enemy is existed, not null. And it will take a while for it to create network variable after spawned. So let's check if its variable enemy move vector is created. When client is connected, it will check event enemy input right away. So we need to do the same thing to check player 2 is created and its network variable is existed before running the event enemy input. After the fix and build again, let's test to see how it works. Start host on editor. No errors anymore. Start client and try to move player on client device. Player 2 has moved, but I cannot stop the movement of player, even I don't press any buttons. When client 2 press button D or A, move vector is updated. Host doesn't know when client 2 stopped pressing buttons, so I added another vector, value 000, to tell that I stopped pressing buttons on client 2. There is one more thing here. It will keep updating repeatedly value 000 when no buttons are pressed. It will cost a lot of data transfer between server and clients. So you should add node once into to update value 000 only one time when stopped pressing. You need event to reset node once, that you can call it again next time. Build it again, and test it. Start host on editor, then start client. Player 2 can stop now. But player 2 on host device stopped immediately, right after client stopped pressing. We need to add more thing to resolve it. Host is received move vector 000, but we didn't handle it yet on host. If move vector on player enemy is 000, that means client 2 stopped movement of his player. So, host can move player 2 only if move vector not equals 000. Everything should work well now. Let's build the game again and test it. Player 2 movement worked perfect now. If you see this warning, every time update network variable value, and you want to turn it off, just double-click on it. It will open the code where the warning is. It's just a warning, you can disable it. It will not affect anything to your game. If you run the game again, you will not see the warning anymore. You don't need to do it, just watch to understand. On host or client 1, I create a network variable on player 1, with type is string. When I start host, player 1 is spawned, and network variable on player 1 is created. I open another device, run it as a client 2. Player 2 is created on host device. Network variable of player 2 is created also. So network variable will be created on all players on host or server. Now I will switch it. Turn editor to be a client this time. Player 1 and player 2 is spawned on client 2 as well. Network variable of player 2 is created. But network variable is not created on player 1, on client 2 device. So network variable is created only on owner player object. That's why you can get or update value of network variable on owner client device only. Open use netcode to get event to use. To see a ping from client to server, we have this event to check ping. We have a text to show some message on screen here. Open player controller again. On client device, at button input, we add check ping here. Let's show the ping number to text message. Now build to test it. You can only get ping from client device only, because host or server, ping is always 0. As you see, it has some delay obviously, with ping 100. With this delay, you cannot play fighting game or shooting game. Next step, I will show you how to make client has no delay with this high ping. In the last test, when you move player of client 2, player 2 on client 2 is very delayed, but on host device, It's exactly same time when client pressed move buttons. Because host received move message from client 2 through its network variable. So if you move player with network variable, client will feel no lag at all. This time, let's make a new player controller to see the difference. Name it new player controller. Open the old script. This is all events we just made. I will remove most of them and keep events when player objects are spawned. We don't need network variable yet. Copy all of these. Go to our new player controller script. Paste them here. Now when any player objects are spawned, we can know it is player 1 or player 2 object, on host or on client 2 device. Don't forget to add variable, prefab player host and prefab player enemy. We will create permanent object for player 1 and player 2. These objects will display as player 1 and player 2 object. Even clients are not connected or disconnected. These objects are always on screen. I will put color blue for host object and color red for enemy object. We already have start position when players are connected. Next, let's change some component from our prefab player. We don't need rigid body, and no more network transform to, because we not move the prefab player. So we need network object and network variable only. You can turn off the visible of this prefab, and delete box collider too. First, I'll put host object and enemy object to variable to call them easier. When players are connected, we will move host object to host location, and enemy object to enemy location. When client 2 connected, move players object to start position also. Let's handle these custom events. When client 1 and prefab player connected, we will move host object to host location position. And when client 2 and prefab player 2 connected, move enemy object to enemy location. Now let's build the game to test it out. On editor, let's start host and start client. All players can turn to start position correctly. Open player controller script. I will copy as host event. We will create the button click event. If this is host or client 1, get button click with host input. Use get key for keyboard buttons. Button D to move player to right side. Button A to move to left side. To move player, open macro character. Copy event player move to. Paste it here. Object is player will be moved. Player 1 object, or host object. Direction is vector will move to. Create new flow variable. Name it move vector. Type of vector 3. If button D is pressed, vector will be 1 0 0 and -1 0 0. Move to left side. Add move vector to direction in our event. Move speed is speed of movement. Host can move its player object on host device now. I will build to see how it works. When I press buttons to move player 1 on host device, player 1 can move on host, but player 1 on client 2 is not moving. We will sync players' movement between host and client later. This time, we will move player 2 on client 2. We do check buttons event on client 2 with name enemy input. We can use event player move 2 again. When client 2 is pressed buttons, we will move player 2 or enemy object on client 2 device. We already have move vector and speed all ready to use. Now I build to test it. Start host and client. Press buttons on client. Player 2 will move on client 2 device, but player 2 on host device will not moving. The same on player 1 on host. Open Use Netcode to get event to use. Let's copy these events of network variable. Open player controller script. Paste them here. First, we need to create network variable on prefab player enemy. When a prefab player is spawned on client 2, and it the owner player of client 2, so it will be prefab player enemy. Make sure you create network variable on the owner player only. Create network variable on player 2 with name enemy position and with type is vector 3. To update its value, we use update network variable value. When enemy object is moving by client 2, let's add its current position into the network variable. On client 2, we can use network variable of prefab player 2 only. Add enemy object position into network variable enemy position. Now prefab player enemy on host device has received position of enemy object through network variable already. Next step, we update enemy object position on host device. To apply position, use set position. Let's update position of enemy object on host. Host already has enemy object position through network variable. Enemy object position is from network variable of prefab player enemy. Update current position of enemy object on host. Let's run the game to test it. There is some error here. Open script again to check it out. It said that prefab player enemy is not existed yet. Because we use event on update, it will check events since game started. When host is started, prefab player of client 2 is not connected yet. So we need to add some conditions for this. Make sure prefab player enemy is existed before it checks this event. And it'll take a while to create network variable after prefab player spawn. This error will be fixed now. By the way, event enemy input use prefab player enemy as well. So add the same condition to stop that error occurs here. I will build the game to see how it works. First, start host on editor. Start client, and move its player 2. It works, but player 2 on host stopped immediately when I stopped pressing. The reason is, when client 2 has stopped pressing buttons, host will stop receiving enemy position 2. Enemy position needs to update at all time. When I try to run the game, start client, and move player 2 object. Player 2 on host device works perfect now. As you see, it has no lag or delay at all. Open Use Netcode to get event to use. Use this event to get ping from client. I will add it after enemy input event. Create trigger custom event. With name show ping client. Add ping event here. Let's show ping number to a text message on the screen. Run the game to see how much ping we have between client and host. The true ping will be around 100, quiet high, but the player 2 seems to have no delay on client and host device. So with network variable, you know how to reduce or remove the lag between clients and server. To get value from a network variable, we will use this event, but it can get network variable value on owner player only. On client 2, cannot get network variable of player 3 or player 1. You can watch again this example. We created network variable on player 1 and player 2 already. On client 2, only player 2 has network variable is created. Player 1 on client 2 cannot create network variable. So on client 2, we cannot get player 1 position through network variable. Let's open Use Netcode to get event to use. We have events to send message between server and clients. You can use this to send player 1 position from host to any client device. Send message and value from server to client, we will use this one. When client received any message from server, this event will trigger. Copy them. Let's send player 1 position every time it is moving. Paste them here. Server network object is any objects in server that has component network object and network variable. You can use prefab player host. It is a network object in server as well. Or you can open folder Macro Netcode. In this folder, there is a sample of server network object. It's just a normal object that has script, network object and network variable. Put it into hierarchy, then you can use it from the event anytime. Next argument is client ID, is ID of client you want to send message into. We will send it to client 2 device here. Let's find out his client ID. We can find a client ID from any network object inside that client. Let's use this event. Message is any message you want to send to. I will leave a message to ask client to update host object position on his device. Now you can add current position of host object or player 1 position here. Only these types of value can be supported. Add host object position into. Now you know how to send a message or a value to any client devices. Whenever a client received a message from server, this event will trigger. Let's compare the message information to see what to do. If it is host position, so we will update the host object position. I will add value that is received from server into a flow variable. This is host object position from host device. Now update position of host object on client device. This is how you synchronize player 1 and client 2 device. Press play to see how it works. There is some error here. Reason is object prefab player enemy is not spawned yet. Because you use on update event, so it will check since the game started. We can use again prefab player enemy check from here. This will stop the error. Press play again. No more error now. I will build to see how it works in client device. Start host on editor, then start client. Player 2 is working well. Player 1 is synced too, but it is stopped synchronizing right after player stopped pressing the buttons. Add host input. We need to update host object position even no buttons are pressed to. Try to move player 1 again. It works perfect now. Player 1 and player 2 worked well on all clients. Let's create new button. Name it button start game. Change its text to start game. Put this button to a variable, to call it easier. Let's show button start game only if player 2 is connected to the game. We have event to count number of connected players here. Let's check the number of players. I will use on fixed update. This event can work on server device only. Whenever 2 players in room, host can see button start game. To stop this called again after enough 2 players, we can use node once. When not enough 2 players, button start game will be disabled. Use once to call it one time only 2. And use this way to reset the once event. When button start game is displayed on host device, host can click it. Host can click this button to start the game. Let's build to test it. There is no button start game on host now. When 2 players connected, host can see button start game. We created prefab ball at beginning of the project. I will show you how to create this ball in server and spawned in clients too. Open Use Netcode. To create a new network object on server, you should use this event instantiate network object. It will create new object on server and spawn it on client devices too. But it required that you need to register this network object first. Open folder Macro Netcode. Folder must do. We have a prefab list. Add prefab. This is where you can register any new network object that you will spawn it on server device. That's it, prefab ball is registered. Another way to register more network object in server. Create new network prefab list. Enter any names you like. Here is the list of prefab that you want to register in server. Add prefab ball or any prefab you want into. And on Network Manager. You can add your network prefabs list to register all those prefabs. Make sure you register all prefab and network objects spawned in server. Now copy event instantiate network object. Then open our script. When host click button start game, we will spawn new ball on server device. Position 000 is at center of playground already. Rotation as default 2. If you want new ball is created inside any network object, use this parent. After new ball is created, this will be triggered. Add new ball into a variable. Right after new ball is created, I will move it to host object. I will use some event inside macro no macro. I will apply a force to the ball, using impulse. Paste it into our script. After new object is spawned, I recommend to give it a little bit time before you do anything on this new object. I will call a custom event to apply a force to this ball. The flow is interrupted by timer, so new ball must be a graph variable. Add new ball object into this custom event. Input object will be object 1 to apply the force impulse. Apply it onto new ball. Strength is power of the force, strong or weak. Direction will be vector from new ball to host object. We have event to get direction between two objects. Copy it. Paste it into. We will apply impulse from new ball object to host object. It should work now. Let's try it. Press play. Press button start game to create a ball. Ball is created successfully on host and client, but there is an error because we didn't add rigid body to ball object yet. Drag value of ball is 0 to not stop the ball movement, and we don't use gravity in this game. You can freeze all rotation of ball if you want. By the way, let's add component network transform to this ball. This will help synchronize position of ball on server to all clients. Let's build and try it again. It worked as expected now. When ball touch player 1, let's do an impulse to push ball forward to player 2 direction. First, let's add a tag to our ball. To stop the pushback from the ball to player 1 and player 2, I will prevent the Z position of them. Now add new visual scripting script to these objects to check the collision with ball when ball hit it. Name it shoot ball or any names you like. Add script to blue player 2. To check collision, use on collision enter. This script is inside host object or enemy object. Whenever ball hit these objects, this event will trigger Create a custom event to shoot the ball back when colliding. Add ball object to its argument. Open player controller. We can use this impulse event. Paste it. We gonna push ball back to the opposing player. So direction of impulse will be from the ball to opponent player. Object to apply impulse on is ball. Next step, let's find out which one is opponent of this current object. If this script is inside host object, opponent will be enemy object. If this is enemy object, opponent will be host object. Build the game to test it out. Press start game. No more pushback to player. The bounce back is working well. Next, if player cannot catch the ball will hit outer zone. The ball will be destroyed and name of winner will be displayed. To check the collision on blue zone or red zone with the ball, we will create new visual scripting script on them. Name it out zone or any names you like. Add script to red zone 2. Open script. Do the same to check collision with ball. On collision enter. This script is inside object blue zone or red zone only. Whenever ball hits blue zone or red zone, this event will trigger. Create a custom event to handle if ball hit. I will name it game end. When the ball hit, destroy the ball. If you destroy ball on host device like this, it is not correct. Host is server and client 1 too. So it might destroy ball on client 1 device only, not on server. We can't use is host here. We must destroy network object on server only. After destroying ball, we already know who is winner. Let's show the name of winner on a text message on the screen. It can be blue win or red win here. Create a variable to get name of winner. We can get the name of winner at on start. If this script is inside blue zone, ball hit this blue zone, winner will be red. Otherwise, if this is red zone is hit, blue player will be winner. Congratulations, you finished your first multiplayer game in visual scripting. Let's run the game to see the final result. Macro Netcode has all events you need to build any multiplayer games. This is event to command a client do something, and this is event for client to command back to server. You will use these events and network variable a lot to communicate between server and clients. But this tutorial can connect players on same PC only. To connect players between PC to phones or people over the world, we need to use Unity Transport with Relay or Lobby. I will show you how to do it with Macro Relay and Macro Lobby next. Thank you for watching.